Should you buy Marvel Avengers in 2022? This very controversial game on release is now at its lowest sale price ever, about $10 in Australian on Steam, which is about $7 to $8 in American, and it's very cheap on all other platforms as well. So if you're wondering whether the game was now worth it at such a low price, I'm going to be breaking down whether or not this game is actually worth it, especially over a couple years after its release, with various expansions and fixes coming to the game slowly, gradually, to make the game better than what it was at launch. So today I'm going to be breaking that down in terms of gameplay and what you actually do in the game, and the story, which will be without any spoilers at all, and just more of just an overview of that story that the game is going to tell, and mainly focusing on the gameplay component of the game, and now seeing whether the game is actually worth it for you now that it's at such a low price than compared to other years. First, we'll talk about the gameplay of the game, which is mainly the combat and the other stuff that you do during the game, which is the main focus of the game and is what you're actually going to be doing for most of that time there, because the story, although it's there, isn't the main factor of this game in terms of what it's actually trying to do. There's different expansions, different things to do, war zones, and different things that the game is trying to explain to you. So the story is not the only focus here, and the gameplay has a lot of emphasis on it, especially because you're going to be doing the same task over and over again within the gameplay component of the game. So going into the game, I already had such low expectations. And this is of course due to the many reviews that I saw at launch, and even now some people are really hating on the game still because it hasn't really improved, because it couldn't improve due to its core. So I definitely went in with very low expectations, and the game actually blew those expectations out of the water, and it was a lot greater than I thought it was going to be. First off, the combat in this game is quite generic. It is very simple combat. It's very mindless combat. There's nothing too heavy about that combat. But if you're like me, sometimes playing a game with such simple combat but also fun at the same time, just mindlessly bashing enemies, is really fun, especially with a different variety within that combat. So of course there's different heroes in the game, and mainly you'll be playing of course as the normal Avengers, especially during the story component of the game, in its proper story, the story that the game released with, and not the expansions. The Avengers there have really unique combat sets and different gameplay scenarios that you can really mix and match in order to find the most creative thing that you can do and have the most fun that you want to have. So for me, going through all these different characters, switching between them during missions, doing different moves every mission because you're switching between different characters, was actually really fun. I thought there was a lot of variety in the different combat moves that you actually had, and the combat was a really fun component of the game. You're going to be doing a lot of combat in this game. When you come into this game, expect a bunch of combat. About 90% of all the gameplay within this game is the combat scenarios within the game. So if you don't enjoy the core of the game, which is that combat component, then you're not going to enjoy playing the game in its entirety. I, however, really did enjoy the combat of Marvel Avengers. It's kind of like Gotham Knights in a way. It's very mindless, but it's very fun at the same time, and there is some variety in complexity that you can create by using skill points and different abilities in order to mix and match the combat scenarios, in order to match what you exactly want with the combat. However, don't come into the game expecting something so complex and that it's going to utilize every component of each hero's abilities and different things that they can do in the movies and such. You're not going to find that here. You're going to find some mindless combat. However, there is some complexity, and there's a lot of damn variety within that combat for each of the heroes, because you're switching between all these different heroes at any time within the combat, and that really makes the game a very fun experience in terms of mixing and matching it up without it ever getting too repetitive. However, although I do have a lot of praising for the combat and the gameplay in general, the fact that the game has this gear system, this looter shooter system, really can turn me off. The various cosmetic systems and whatever else there is, the ability systems, the different gear that you can collect throughout the game, is really confusing, and everything, even the skill trees within the game, are divided into 4 different sections, and you don't really know what each one does, especially when it explains it to you. It doesn't really make any sense to the player, especially when first going into the game. I still don't understand it, and I just finished the game today as well. So it's a really weird skill tree system, and the gear system is even weirder. You would just be fighting an enemy, you get a gear thing, and then you have to change it straight away. Every mission you'll see yourself changing different gear, and the gear doesn't actually change your character and how it looks, because that's completely different for some reason, and that goes completely with the cosmetics in the game, and many of these are actually paid with the real money. And I really found this disappointing, because I really do like to customize these different heroes, and it would have been cool to fight all of these different enemies with different combat costumes and different things during each mission. So the fact that I have to pay money or even go through this weird shipment system, which are basically loot boxes that you can attain for free, that don't actually give anything good, are really annoying, and I don't really like any of these sort of systems in any video game. So the fact that it has it here, I don't really like it either. Sure, I might have liked it a little bit in Gotham Knights, but that's because even though there was so much things to upgrade and stuff, I actually understood what was going on. In Marvel Avengers, you're just changing between all this different stuff that doesn't even even make any sense. You'll be switching from one belt to another. They look the exact same, yet you'll get more power in the game, and this weird power system and all this leveling and skill points really makes all of this game systems really weird and annoying and really redundant to get to. However, the core combat of the game is super fun. However, another complaint I do have about the gameplay, although I do recommend it overall, is the enemy variety. The enemy variety so far in the main game, and I haven't actually played the DLCs yet, so that probably might, I don't know if it's actually going to change because I believe it's the same villain, but the enemy variety in the main game is really bad. You'll be fighting the same robots over and over again, and there's no complexity. Even when they introduce a new robot type, they're not really that different. You're going to be mashing the same buttons, utilizing the same abilities, same strategies, same everything to fight these different robots, and it's kind of annoying because there could be a lot of opportunities for different boss fights and different enemy varieties within this game, especially being a superhero game with such a vast universe of characters and different villains and things. However, the main things that you're going to be fighting are really repetitive and just boring to fight, especially after a long period of time, and I can't imagine fighting them over and over again in a different expansion or even a longer version of the game that would ever come out. That's really annoying, and I don't like the enemy variety in this game, and I think you're going to get sick of it as well. So if that's a main issue for you, then definitely look out for that before purchasing this game. However, overall the combat is super fun in this game, and I really did like playing around with the different abilities and things that you could do within the combat. However, there is some problems with the game overall, such as its gameplay systems, which might be kind of annoying for most players, and I really don't like how cluttered and weird it feels to navigate through all the different menus within the game. I don't like that many games out there are doing this. Some games like Modern Warfare 2 even have cluttered menu systems. So if you get really annoyed by those type of things, then you might want to make sure you make a better decision when purchasing the game, looking at all of the aspects of the game, such as the combat as well. And onto that as well is the enemy variety in the game is not that great, and you're going to get a little bit bored, especially during the end part of the game, because you're going to be finding the same robots again and again. And that's with me. I did no side missions or different faction missions that they have in the game. So if you're going to be doing those, you're going to be fighting the same enemies, and you might get really bored of the main enemies that you're going to be fighting, and that might really turn you off the game. So beware of that as well before purchasing the game. However, for me personally, if you like some mindless fun, some complexity in the combat, and really just want to have a good time with what you're playing, then Marvel Avengers is definitely for you. But if you like a bit more complexity and different variety within, you know, the enemies that you're going to be fighting, for example, and the different gameplay systems within the game, then this game might not be for you. However, the variety within the different heroes that you're going to be playing as is really fun, and if you like these characters, I really recommend purchasing this game, and I really do recommend the game based on its combat component alone. This section is going to be very concise. I'm not going to really say anything about the story. And I don't know if in many reviews people actually said this, but the story in this game is quite good. I really did enjoy the characters' portrayals within this game. And although they might not look like their MCU counterparts or may not look like what you envision in your head, I really do like how they are portrayed within this game. My only main gripe is with the main character Kamala Khan, or Miss Marvel. She's kind of annoying at times. However, there is some good character moments with her, and she's not really that annoying that's going to take away anything from the story in my opinion. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the writing within this game. I really did like the characters. I liked how the plot advanced, and although it wasn't too unique for what an Avengers story could be, it was a really fun story to go into, and I really did enjoy the story, seeing all the different twists and turns within the story. It was quite an enjoyable story, and I think if you're thinking about buying the game based on its story, you might find something actually pretty decent here, and I would give the story about a 7 out of 10. It was really fun to play through, especially mixed with all the different combat scenarios and whatnot during the gameplay. I really did like the story here, so if you're looking for a good story, you might find one here. However, you gotta mix that with the combat and see whether you like the gameplay as well, because if you're purchasing the game based purely on the fact that its story is alright, I don't recommend that, and I definitely think you should look into the gameplay a bit more and see whether or not, through my evaluation of the gameplay in the earlier section of this video, whether or not you're gonna enjoy these two components enough for the game to be worth it for you. However, it is quite a good story. I really did enjoy the story, so if you like these characters, you're gonna have a good time here. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll have another review out maybe in the next day or two, and I hope you do like that video. I don't know what it's exactly going to be on yet. However, I hope I was able to convince you to purchase this game. And I'd give the game about a 7.5 or 7 out of 10 overall after just completing the main story today. So I really do like the game, and I really did enjoy playing through it, and really enjoyed the story and the gameplay and the combat, although sometimes it did get quite repetitive, as I did say earlier in the gameplay section. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.